Hello, welcome to the channel that aims to bring some light into games left in the dark. This is From the Void. Today, we'll be looking into some hidden gems or underappreciated games on the Nintendo Switch. Games that I feel deserve more attention, whether because not enough people know about them or realize how good they are. If you enjoyed this and want to see more hidden gems on the Switch, please consider subscribing to the channel to help me keep making these. Okay, this one is special. It's both an incredibly good game and outrageously unknown. This is ITTA. ITTA is an isometric shooter that reminds me of Hyper Light Drifter in the graphics department. It uses a serene color palette, and the art of the characters is somewhat cartoonish, but the setting is actually brutal. The first thing you see as you start the game is the titular character waking up to a horrible scene. Her father, brother, and even her cat are all slaughtered in front of her. What the hell happened? Then a spirit descends and takes the form of the cat and will help in the grueling quest ahead of her. Then it's up to you to figure out where you are and what happened. I don't want to spoil it, so I'll just say that this is a rather interesting setting with a lot of lore and hidden information together. Also, there are some strong images in this game. People brutally murdered, and this guy here. Yeah, there is some graphic pixel art brutality in this game, so be advised. Also, it's awesome that things keep changing in this game. NPCs rarely stay on the same spot. For instance, this guy here is looking for his friends and finds two of them dead. When you re-enter, he has dug their graves. I thought that was pretty cool attention to detail. I don't think there is quite anything exactly like this game in terms of gameplay. This is a twin-stick shooter, although you still have to press ZR to shoot, and it's also a bullet hell game, but weirdly enough, a far more approachable bullet hell, which is very unusual. That's because the projectiles flying your way move very slowly. So yeah, it's still a hell of a lot of bullets, and I know it looks impossible, but when you play it, it really doesn't feel difficult to dodge your way through the battlefield, as it typically is with any other bullet hell game. Also, I need to say this game has really tight gameplay. They really tweaked it to perfection. It feels awesome to play. Another important aspect about this game is that this is a boss rush. There are no normal enemies. Outside of the boss rooms, there is an interesting world to explore, and it's a nice break from the grueling boss fights. And doing so will grant you some valuable extra hearts, new types of weapons that feel really meaningful, and also maps, lore of this strange world you're inhabiting, and a bunch of cat statues that will change the appearance of your cat, and some of them are hilarious. Even though the bullet hell is a far more approachable one than any other probably, this game is still plenty challenging, especially around the 5th boss encounter. That's when the difficulty was at its peak to me. That's because at this point you don't have access to more than 6 hearts. And your best weapon is still the plain revolver from the beginning, as I found the shotgun is very unreliable. Later on, the bosses keep getting crazier, but you will end up with 12 hearts total, and the machine gun destroys all other weapons in my opinion. So the game actually got a lot easier as it went on. You can choose how many of the bosses you kill before the final one, so the duration will vary depending on your choice. I went for all of them, and it took me around 6 or 7 hours to finish the game, so it's not a long one. In conclusion, this was for sure one of the greatest surprises I've had in my recent gaming life. I knew next to nothing about this game, don't really hear anyone talking about it, and yet it was such a great experience. Even if you're not interested in the bullet hell shooters in the slightest, I would still suggest this game. Just go ahead and pick it up. Now for a simple but charming little game. Alwa's Awakening. This is more on the 8-bit than 16-bit side of pixel art, but I found the animation for the main character Zoe really well done and detailed. Also needs to be said that the soundtrack is great, providing some quality NES sound in chiptunes. Zoe is brought in by a sage to help free the people of Alwa from the evil man who is enslaving them. Zoe is equipped with a staff that she uses to hit enemies and to create a green block, a blue bubble, or a yellow lightning bolt, each unlocked separately as you progress. Alwa's Awakening presents puzzles, action and platforming, but the action is mostly reserved for the boss fights. The game focuses more on the puzzle and the platforming. You will have to use the block and the bubble creatively to overcome the puzzles and progress. This is also a Metroidvania, with a big but not huge interconnected world, which challenges you on the exploration side too. The boss fights are quite difficult actually, so prepare for some deaths. But other than that, the game is not too hard, nor is it too long for a Metroidvania, lasting around 10 hours. This is a cool little game, which also has a sequel in Alwa's Legacy, which I'm sure I'll be covering in the future in some way or another. If you like authentic retro games in both look and feel, this one is certainly among the best options on the Switch. Now let's get creepy here with Yomawari Night Alone. What first attracted me to this game were the graphics actually. I really like the style and the lighting effects in the isometric view. You control a little girl named Mina whose dog has gone missing. Her sister then leaves the house to look for it and never returns. So Mina decides to go after them in the middle of the night, which is a really bad decision. So you're stuck controlling this 6-year-old girl who does nothing besides chuck some pebbles and turn on a flashlight. Meanwhile, out in the streets are all the creepiest creatures of nightmares ready to mercilessly murder a 6-year-old girl. I mean, there are some really disturbing, horrible apparitions in this game. It really messes with you. The gameplay revolves mainly around stealth. There are some puzzle solving and exploration too. You will die a lot, and that's by design of the game. It's there to intensify the feeling of helplessness. Basically, you will run across all manner of horrors, and they all have different behavior patterns. So you'll have to figure out how to pass through them without dying. To help you survive, Mina can do a little sprint, but she gets tired really quickly. So you gotta learn how to use it intelligently. Also, her heartbeat will increase whenever a ghost is nearby. And this provides two important aspects to the game. First, most of the ghosts are partially invisible, so this is how you know when there's one nearby. And secondly, of course, to mess with you even further. When you hear her heartbeat pumping, you get all kinds of tense. The streets feel very oppressive, and not only because of the nightmare creatures roaming around, but also because it's a rather big map, so there's a lot of exploration to do. This is a challenging game, with some sections actually really hard to pull off, but it's worth it for the atmosphere that it provides. If you're into horror games, this is a great pick for sure. By the way, this game is best played in the dark with headphones. Really, it intensifies the experience a lot. Now for a little bit of a throwback. Dust: An Elysian Tale. This game first came out in 2012 on the Xbox 360 as a downloadable only game, back when this sort of thing wasn't as common as it is today. And even though it got some attention back then, I don't really see anybody talking about it now that it's on the Switch. Dust has a fully fledged cartoon look to the graphics. I mean, at this point, specifically here, it seems like you're playing a Bambi game or something. Overall, I enjoyed the look of the game, even though some of the NPCs just look off. The main character is Dust, an amnesiac warrior who wakes up in a meadow by a talking blade and its guardian Fidget. The plot pretty much is the Barn's identity actually, so I'm not gonna go into detail. What I found great about the gameplay is that from early on in the game, it just allows you to be awesome. Dust can perform some insane moves with the blade, and hacking and slashing feel cool as well as provide some welcome challenge, especially in higher difficulties. This game also has a bunch of RPG elements. like leveling up, stats allocation which feels substantial, as well as equipping gear and farming for items and materials for crafting. Also, there are some epic moments in this game. There is a whole war going on, and some of the boss fights have even cinematic moments to them. In the normal difficulty, this will be kind of an easy game. Still a lot of fun, but easy. If you prefer your games to have a challenge, go straight for the tough or the hardcore difficulty, that will provide some great challenges. There are also plenty of side quests to do, so the game can last you over 15 hours if you go for 100%, or around 12 hours if you just care about finishing it. Dust: An Elysian Tale is a game that cares about feeling awesome to play first and everything else second, and I really appreciate it for that. Even while just reloading my save to get this footage, I had a great time with it. If you like what you've seen, give it a shot, you will likely not regret it. Next, the best looking game ever in my humble opinion, Owlboy. In a scale from 0 to 10, this is a 15 for the most gorgeous pixel art in the world. I'm totally biased towards pixel art, but come on, just look at it. Seriously, imagine how much work was put into this, pixel by pixel. I'll tell you how much. This took the developers almost 10 years worth of hard work to finish, and it was worth it. Every single pixel is in the right place, and it's insanely detailed, including high quality animations. This is a true treasure, we don't even deserve this. So yeah, you may have heard of this, maybe it's not much of a hidden gem, but no matter how much recognition it got, it's still underappreciated, it has to be. The setting is also great. You control Otis, an owl that is kind of the black sheep of his clan, and he is constantly bullied for being a mute and a slow learner and clumsy. Actually, this theme of discrimination is a constant in the story, as other characters are also picked on for being a stutterer, for instance. Otis goes into a hell of an adventure with his best friend Getty when his town is attacked by pirates, and he is the last owl available to help out. The gameplay is solid. Otis can seamlessly fly and carry stuff while doing so, including his companions, and each of them will come with a different ranged weapon and are able to surpass specific types of obstacles. The game has a number of dungeons with boss fights at the end, which are all very interesting, and the game also presents a little bit of puzzles. There are also a number of mini-games to tackle to gather the maximum number of coins, since the amount is limited. Getting all of the coins will grant you access to the best equipment in the game, which is a neat reward for going the extra mile. Doing so will take you around 13 hours, or if you don't care about 100% in the game, it will last you around 10 hours. There is a challenge specifically in some of the mini-games, but the whole game felt fair and just a joy to play through. In conclusion, in terms of pixel art, this is certainly one of the highest achievements of humankind in my opinion, and just for that it's worth the price of admission. And since on top of this we get a solid and thoroughly fun game, this is a must play in my opinion. A game that takes inspiration from several different classic titles at once is Reverie. As you can see, the graphics are colorful and vibrant, very similar to Earthbound. You play as Tai, a boy who is traveling to a New Zealand island to visit his grandparents. There, he learns of an ancient tale about 5 brothers who cursed each other pretty much. A really weird story actually, which I guess takes inspiration from actual New Zealand folklore. And because of this, the whole island is endangered with constant earthquakes. It's up to the little boy to calm the spirits of the 5 brothers down by beating them back to cohesion. Although this looks a lot like Earthbound, the gameplay is totally inspired on Zelda: A Link to the Past, from the tools you can use and equip to different buttons to the dungeon's configurations. This also has a clear homage to Star Tropics, which I appreciated a lot since one of your weapons is a yo-yo. This game has an emphasis on action, including boss fights, exploration of the overworld, which requires the player to figure out how to surpass obstacles in it, and puzzles inside the dungeons. Actually, they went really deep with the puzzles, with some of them in the final dungeon being really challenging, requiring the player to think outside the box and use all their tools. For instance, you will get yourself a rock with googly eyes, and at points in the game, you will be required to use your dart gun to move your rock from afar. I know it doesn't really look like it, but the puzzles become really tricky. Other than that, the action side is not very challenging, nor is the exploration in the overworld. There is, however, a post-game bonus dungeon which will test your fighting skills and a total of 20 feathers to collect, which grants you a special robe that makes Tai invulnerable for a short period of time. This game will last somewhere around 7 hours to complete, including the bonus dungeon and getting all the feathers. In conclusion, as far as Zelda clones go, this is a humble but surprisingly high quality entry. If you're into classic Zelda gameplay, this is certainly one to consider. And also, I almost forgot, there is a kiwi bird impersonating Smeagol in this. So if you don't play it, it's your loss really. Now for something completely unique, Snake Pass. This is not a hidden gem, but I'm sure a lot of people just passed on it and it's getting forgotten, so this is more on the underappreciated side of the list. Snake Pass has beautiful cartoonish graphics. However, other than the lava stages, it doesn't really provide a lot of diversity, which I really wish it did. You control Noodle, the snake, and also this hummingbird companion. But as far as the story goes, I don't really think there is any. You're just collecting these jewel stones to progress to the next stage, that's it. Now, the gameplay is the highlight. It's 100% a physics-based platforming collectathon, but it's also a very demanding one, so this will either make or break your interest in this game. The way you control Noodle is really ingenious and really makes you feel like you are controlling a realistic snake. You press ZR to move forward, like a racing game, and since snakes move mostly by slithering, you will need to move the analog stick from side to side to emulate that movement. Then, by holding A, Noodle will lift its head, allowing it to reach higher platforms. There are many bamboo trunks scattered around, and these will be the main pathways to progress in the game. To do so, you will need to make the snake curl itself around the trunks, and by holding ZL, the snake will tighten its grip so not to fall as easily. And finally, if you press Y, the bird will lift the snake's tail end. So it's a lot of buttons to press, and at some points you will be pressing a lot of them in conjunction, which will be a challenge. All this means that to play this game you will need to learn a completely new type of gameplay, but one that feels very realistic, and once you do learn it, very satisfying too. The entire challenge lies on the movement itself and exploring the stages to find the collectibles. Some of the final levels will really test your ability in maneuvering the snake, providing some steep challenges to overcome. Other than the 3 jewels you'll need to gather to move to the next stage, you also have a number of bubbles and coins to collect. It is very hard to find all of them, but since they are not required to progress, I would suggest not worrying too much about them, because they only grant you a different skin for the snake and the bird when you complete 100% of the game, which I really didn't think it was worth all the trouble. If you don't care about 100%ing it, this game will last around 6 hours, or 9 hours for all the collectibles. There is also an arcade mode and a trial mode to provide incentive to keep playing after finishing it, and I gotta say, they're both nice additions to the game. In conclusion, although this game has its shortcomings and it's demanding on the gameplay, I really enjoyed playing through it for the very unique challenge it provides. If you like completely new types of gameplay, Snake Pass could be for you. Hey, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. See you later.